What's up, guys? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. It's time yet again to check out some more Reddit posts, so be sure to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments, and we're getting right into it. Coworker accused me of sabotaging her work, but she was just editing the wrong file for 2 weeks. I work in marketing, and we use a shared drive for all our project files. Pretty standard setup. There's this woman, Sarah, who started about 8 months ago. She's fine, does her job, but she's not super tech savvy and sometimes needs help with basic stuff. Whatever, we all have our strengths. About 3 weeks ago, we got assigned to work on this client pitch together. I created the main presentation file and shared it with her. The file name was client name pitch 2025 final.pptx, and I put it in the correct project folder. Sarah was supposed to add some content to slides 8 to 12 while I worked on the rest. Easy enough. Last Monday, I opened the file to check on her progress, and nothing. None of her slides were there. I figured maybe she hadn't gotten to it yet, so I messaged her asking for an update. She replied, "What do you mean? I've been working on it all week." Confused, I told her I didn't see any of her changes in the file. She insisted she'd been adding content every day. I sent her a screenshot showing the slides were blank. She lost it. Started saying I must have deleted her work, that I was trying to make her look bad in front of our boss. She said she'd been putting in hours on those slides, and now they're just gone and it's my fault. I tried to explain that I literally hadn't touched slides 8 to 12 at all. They were assigned to her, why would I delete them? She wasn't hearing it. She went to our manager, claiming I was sabotaging her. Our manager pulled us both into a meeting. Sarah's almost in tears, saying I've been deleting her work, and she has proof she's been working on it because she's been saving the file every day. Manager asked to see her screen. She pulled up the file and there's all her work. Slides 8 to 12 are completely finished and they actually look pretty good. But then our manager asked her to check the file name. It was client name pitch 2024 old v2.pptx. She'd been editing a file from last year that had a similar name. It was in a completely different folder labeled archive 2024. She'd been searching for the file by client name, clicking the first result and just working on the wrong presentation for 2 weeks. The look on her face when she realized. Manager very calmly explained that she'd been editing an old archived file, and that my file was the current one. Sarah just sat there. Then she started saying the folder structure is confusing and the files shouldn't have similar names, and actually, this is still kind of my fault for not labeling it better. Manager shut that down real quick and told her to copy her slides into the correct file. Sarah didn't apologize. She just left the meeting. She's been cold to me ever since, won't make eye contact, gives one-word answers when I ask her anything. She told another coworker that I made her look stupid in front of management. I didn't make her do anything. She accused me of sabotaging her, made a whole thing about it, got management involved, and then it turned out she was just editing the wrong file. A couple people have said I should maybe apologize to smooth things over, but apologize for what exactly? I'm the one who got accused of deleting her work. Is this one of those things where I'm supposed to just let it go for the sake of office harmony? Or am I allowed to be annoyed that she's acting like I'm the problem here? Yeah, it certainly is annoying that she took it as far as she did and as quickly as she did. I mean, this kind of misunderstanding could have just been figured out by the two of them if they just took a deep breath. But she immediately just took it to the manager, convinced OP was trying to sabotage her. So yeah, certainly annoying. But the mistake itself is sort of understandable, even though it was because she just wasn't very careful about it. I mean, not being tech savvy is fine, but come on, just read the file name. It tells you right there what it is. But yeah, her being mad at OP after all this is definitely her reaction to just being embarrassed, knowing that she was at fault. So it seems like she's directing her embarrassment into anger towards OP, which isn't an uncommon reaction when people get embarrassed about their own mistake. Am I the a-hole for pretending not to know my fiancé after she had a meltdown during boarding the plane and was eventually thrown off? I imagine I'm gonna get raked over the coals for this one. So my fiancé, maybe not for much longer, and I were on our way back from a vacation recently. It was a great time and everything went off without an issue. That is, until we started boarding the plane. Now I know better. I bring a small backpack with essentials in case I don't get my checked bags. I can survive out of this backpack and it will always pass baggage check for size and weight. Done a lot of traveling, so why fight the system? My fiancé didn't want to listen to my advice and chose to bring basically a regular full-size bag that barely fits the standards of carry-on. But generally speaking, the airline worker doesn't want to deal with the trouble and allows it through. But this time, the airline worker was not having it. It was a packed flight. We were boarding last in economy, and it was just a mess. I got through just fine first with my little backpack, but I could hear the argument from the boarding tunnel thingy, and it was getting heated. I was about to go back and try to smooth it out, but my fiancé rushed past and just boarded plain. I assumed, not having heard it super clearly, that the attendant had given in and let her on. That was not the case. So we found our seats and settled in. I was pretty tired and could tell she was upset, so I just kinda tucked into the window and put my hat down and tried to take a nap. But soon after, the airline worker and a cop shows up and they're not effing around and want her off the plane. She tries to plead and cry, etc., but they're not having it. And maybe in a moment of panic or just plain self-preservation, the cop asks if we're together, and I blurt out, "No," shaking my head emphatically. I got kill dagger eyes from her as she shot up and grabbed her bag and followed the cop out. She was also swearing and screaming the whole way out. Now obviously this is well after the event I'm posting this, but when she did eventually get home, she caught the next flight out with the bag checked. I was there to pick her up. She obviously thought I was the asshole, and to be honest, almost everyone I know thinks I'm an asshole except my boss and coworkers, who for context were very much relying on me to be back on time, which I gave my word I would for a really important project that was time sensitive. They were all very happy I didn't get thrown off too. So am I the asshole for this self-preservation? Okay, well first off, I wouldn't really call this self-preservation, OP pretending not to know her. Just because you're with a person that is being removed from a flight doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get off too. I mean, it's probably expected, but I don't think the staff are gonna make you, so I wouldn't call that self-preservation. Assuming OP's not just saying that as an excuse and he actually did need to get back for a work thing, then he could have easily explained that to his fiancée and said he needs to stay on the flight, and he'll meet up with her when she catches the next one. But instead, he wimps out and pretends not to know her because the situation was uncomfortable. And yeah, let's get the obvious stuff out of the way too. OP's fiancé did not make a good move by just ignoring the demands of the flight crew and getting on the plane. What else do you expect? I mean, of course they're gonna get an officer to remove you. So yeah, obviously, bad move, not very wise at all. But with that said, since OP is asking if they're an asshole for what they did, yes, I would say so. I mean, in a situation that got tough, he chickened out and pretended not to know his fiancée, the woman he agreed to marry. Sometimes I feel like I'm the crazy one reading some of these comments on these types of posts, because the top comment with 26,000 upvotes says, "Not the asshole. Get out while you still can. This is how she'll be forever. She'll never learn from this experience." And consistently, the top voted comments are the ones saying OP didn't do anything wrong. They're totally not a jerk at all for pretending not to know the person that they vowed to spend the rest of their life with. And sure, there are a few comments saying OP was the jerk here and everyone sucks here, but the overwhelming majority is saying that OP wasn't an asshole here. Like yeah, her behavior was kind of embarrassing and questionable, but dude, come on. I just don't get how people are justifying that because of her bad behavior, it made it okay for OP to pretend not to know her. Classic Reddit hive mind here. I'd say they both handled this situation pretty badly, and OP is no saint here either. And honestly, if either of these two people's behavior in this situation would be enough to call their relationship into question, I would say OP's behavior is the most questionable actually, because it's the kind of behavior that directly relates to how they're going to treat their spouse. If anything, I think OP showed more of a red flag about how he's going to be in a relationship than his fiancée did. Am I crazy for thinking that? What do you guys think? And of course, I'm not excusing the act of just forcing your way onto a plane when the staff are telling you you need to check your bag. That's a given, but I'm just pointing out that Redditors seem to think it's okay that OP pretended not to know her because of what she did, and that he's the one that should get out of the relationship. When in my opinion, I honestly think it's the other way around. OP's fiancé is the one that should be questioning the relationship. But she should also question whether or not it's a good idea to barge onto a plane without permission. Waiter assumed I was tipping $40 on a $60 ticket, and then couldn't grasp the math. My wife and I went out for sushi last night. Our waiter looked to be about 16. He had to get the bartender to bring us our drinks, so he couldn't be over 20, and he wasn't very attentive. He was much more interested in flirting with his coworker than checking on us. He only came by the table once after bringing the food, to ask if we wanted boxes to go when we weren't even halfway through eating. I wasn't really bothered by this. I don't expect servers to do much more than just bring me my food, and he managed that just fine. When it came time to pay, I asked if I could pay cash, and he confirmed I could. The bill was $61.99, and I handed him a $100 bill. He said thanks and walked away. My wife looked at me and said, "He didn't mention change. I think he's just going to keep that." I said, "Surely not." But then I noticed he was going about his business at other tables. My wife and I hate awkward encounters, so I offered her the out to go wait in the car while I tried to get my money. She said good luck and went outside. I finally get his attention and he asks, "Is everything okay?" I told him I needed change and he was so confused. He reaches in his back pocket and hands me my $100 bill. I say, "Can you not break this?" He reaches back into his pocket and sets several 20s and smaller bills on the table and still seems confused as he stares at my ticket. I ask what's wrong and he says, "How much do I owe you?" The bill is $61.99, so I tell him, "Just give me 38. Don't worry about the penny." And he just freezes until he finally says, 100 minus $61.99, and trails off. So I finally just pull out my phone and bring up the calculator and show him the math. He gives me my change and just stands there over me. I hand him $11 and get the hell out of there. So awkward. I told some friends about it afterwards and they all said he was trying to scam me basically and hope I wouldn't complain over $40. But I think this kid was just not very bright. Either way, it was so awkward and I woke up this morning still thinking about it. So I decided to just scream it out into the internet as a mildly infuriating experience. Alright everyone, that's going to be all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more Reddit content like this. So I'm out of here, stay tuned for more and I'll see you next time.